Welcome back, everybody. I've got Jamel King from Eastern Municipal Water District here with me from Temecula, California, and he is a shift supervisor, and I'm super excited to have you here with me, Jamel.
Yeah.
We've been communicating over email for quite some time.
Yep, and we have.
Yeah, so what you found my channel through Reddit, didn't you?
Yep, it was through Reddit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so you reached out and were just saying that, you're studying for your 5.
Yep.
I'm studying for my 5,
Yep.
and maybe we should compare some notes.
Yep.
And so we've just kind of been pen pals for a little bit, and
Yep.
we're here at Tri-State Seminar in Las Vegas,
Yep.
and we finally were able to connect in person, so thank you for being on the channel.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely.
it.
So we're gonna have just a little career discussion here, and we're gonna talk about, what got you in the industry. We're gonna talk about your path to supervision. Maybe we'll talk about some leadership mentorship,
Yeah.
and maybe some process control and some emergency response stuff. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds good.
And if you want to add anything, by all means.
Yeah, we'll jump into
All
it.
right, very good. So let's start with what were you doing when you started pursuing wastewater treatment?
So I was working as an electrical apprentice in Utah. At the time, that seemed like a good move for me. After after playing football, I had a couple of different jobs, and it was something I thought I would be interested in at the time. And so I started off as an apprentice, and then I had a couple of contacts in this industry in California, and it was right around the time where my wife, we found out she was pregnant with our first daughter. So I had this crisis, like, okay, well. I know with certain industries, like the construction industry, when things are good, but when they're not good, people get laid off. And in my mind, preparing to be a father, I thought, okay, well, what's something that is more or less recession-proof, or something that I'm not going to have to worry about potentially getting laid off? And so reached out to a few people that I knew in this industry, and it was kind of, the trades, the medical industry, and this is one of the ones that came up. And so I did a little bit of research, and it just so happened that I had a wastewater treatment plant right around the corner from where I lived, never even knew it. So I went down there, and I took a tour, and I requested a tour, and they gave it to me. Spent about a couple of hours just asking questions, and then from there it was kind of like, something I wanted to pursue. And so that was when we were still in Utah at the time. So.
And did you find it hard to get into the industry? A lot of people seem like they run into a lot of competition, and they run into challenges. I hear this a lot from people. Did you run into that at all?
I would say yes and no. So I was fortunate to have people that I'm connected with that kind of point me in the right direction. So kind of the typical path for wastewater, at least where we are, is you take a tour, and then you kind of do a little bit of research, and then you do your if you're really interested in it, you can take some classes through the Sacramento State, through the Office of Water Programs. And then that plant that I said I lived right down the street from, I actually went down there a couple of times to kind of put a picture to, in reality, I wanted to see what it looked like versus what I was reading in the book.
Sure.
So I was fortunate to have that right next to me also. And then, but I would say getting into the industry for me was difficult because my wife, she's from Utah. We then now just had our little girl, and we're gonna sell everything and move to California, where I'm from, and gonna try to find a place to work in the wastewater space. And so a lot of things went my way, and it doesn't normally happen like that for a lot of people. So, and for me, there was certain challenges, but it was more or less self-inflicted.
Got it.
But some people have to do this thing, and they spend a couple of years volunteering or whatever it might be.
So I pick up on something interesting there. You volunteered.
I did, yes.
So everybody, I in a way volunteered. I was getting paid very little, and then I was working on lift stations, and OIT'd with no pay bump, and I was not making a lot of money. You're volunteering. The guy I interviewed last night, Casey, he interned.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And the deputy director of wastewater, which I keep mentioning this guy because he's going to be interviewed soon, of San Luis Obispo.
Oh, sure. Okay.
He is now a grade 5 operator, runs the whole freaking thing. He volunteered as an OIT for the city of San Luis Obispo for free. So there's a trend I'm seeing when we're talking about, people ask, how do I get in? How do I get in? How do I get in? You might have to take a hit and volunteer. Sure. And it's not, it's unfortunate, but would you agree that it's worth it?
Absolutely. I mean, knowing what I know now, absolutely. I think at the time, you go through the heartache of, okay, whether you have a full-time job. In our case, we had sold our condo in Utah, and fortunately we had a place to live in California, but we were on a fixed amount of money from when we sold our condo and whatever else we sold when we left, and so we had that little bit of money to try to figure something out. And I just happened to have a great opportunity. My plant manager right now, I came in there, talked to him. We had connected via email, and he said I can come in and we can talk a little bit, because I was interested in volunteer opportunities. And there just happened to be at that time somebody that they weren't showing up anymore. So he was like, yeah, we'll give you a shot. And I was so happy just to get that opportunity. Even working for free, it was like, okay, we're going in the right direction. We're getting somewhere. And I was fortunate to have good people that were willing to give me an opportunity. One of those people is, like I said, my plant manager, who, I owe my entire career, to him, and others along the way too. People that I work with currently that are my peers. People that had a lot of help along the way, but I also felt like I had to prove myself too.
So now you are an OIT, you get your grade 1, you get your grade 2, you get your grade 3. Yes. Or did you jump grades, or did you go 1, 2, 3?
No, went 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Just like that.
And you have a bachelor's in communications, was it?
I do. Yep.
Okay. But that didn't aid you in jumping grades.
No, it didn't.
Okay. So when you do jump grades, you typically have to have a science degree, chemistry, biology, things like that, or an associate's. But so you went the route similar to me. I have no college education, so it was just Sac State and School of Hard Knocks, and let's see where we're at in a few years. And so you've slowly worked your way up. You're a grade 3 and a shift supervisor now. So now, tell us a little bit about that track, that opportunity track. Like, what made you decide to become a supervisor?
It was the supervisors that I had at the time. I really looked up to them, and I saw what they were doing, and I thought, if there's ever an opportunity for me to do this, I think I might be okay at this. And but it's always easy looking, from the outside looking in. You can do all the reading you want to. You think you would be prepared for something like that, and at the time, I thought I was. I thought, like this. Like I said, from the outside looking in, I thought, I think I can do this. And then again, I also had opportunities that opened up, and I just said, hey, I have a great job as an operator. Like, I think I can do really good at this supervisor thing. If given the opportunity, there was a pretty deep pool of people that I was going against that I felt like, hey, these people have, whether it's qualifications, experience, or a combination of both. I thought they had something maybe more to give than what I could, but nonetheless, this opportunity came. I went for it, and I was fortunate enough to get it, and kind of went through the growing pains of doing the supervisor thing. But it was a unique track. It was opportunities that opened up that I took advantage of, and I felt like, with good intentions, I feel like I can do something good here, and I know the people that I'm potentially going to be working with, and and what I envision, for myself as a leader, kind of came from the people that I saw, from in a leadership standpoint, whether it was through football, whether my parents, like I said, my plant manager, the supervisors that I had before me. And I had great mentors along the way too that made me feel like, okay, I think I could really do this thing. Sorry not to make the point over and over again, but
sure.
I don't know if that answered the question.
It does, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Now, so something I know that you're really interested in is leadership, right? And so you're now fostering in the next generation of operators. So what is it that you think needs to change in the leadership or can be enhanced? Maybe it's not a change, maybe it's enhancement of leadership in our space.
I think, I can only speak from our district, right? Something I feel like our district has done a good job at doing from the executive board down to executive management is, when we talk about succession planning, right? And we talk about, mentorship and you see something in somebody, and because when it's all said and done, like everybody has the potential to be a leader, right? It's not something that I was born with, or it's not something that you just have. Maybe some people do, but for me it wasn't like that. And so from where I work in the space that I'm at, we have programs in place and mentorships in place, opportunities to learn and lead from from an OIT all the way up to your grade 5, so on and so forth. But from a leadership standpoint, though, things that have really helped me. I do a lot of research on leadership, like a person that I've utilized as far as leadership tactics, and I guess a mentor that I don't know is Jocko Willink. I don't know if you're familiar with him. So he has a book called Extreme Ownership. He also has a podcast too. And when I was coming into this leadership space, that's somebody also that I utilized some of the tools that he mentions in his book. And so when it comes to that, going from an operator to a supervisor, I did have that definitely had some growing pains, right? Because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And for me, I had never been in an official leadership position, but at the same time, with the district and the opportunities that they provide, I felt like I was given the tools to be a good leader with a little bit of self-study on my own. I felt like I had the tools and the resources available to be a good leader, and the people that believed in me too. I think that's a big thing too, that I definitely don't want to I don't want to understate by any means, because a lot of people that gave me the opportunity and saw something in myself, that saw something in me that I may have not seen all the time too. So I don't know if that answers the question or not. But
so okay, so that's interesting that you have. It seems like you're very passionate about leadership, and so what would you say? What kind of advice would you give, like an OIT that's coming in right now? Like, what are you looking for in OIT? Are you looking for somebody who is there to be a shift operator, or are you looking for somebody who could potentially be a supervisor one day?
Absolutely. I think that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think that's what you want from everybody, right? I think that's, in a way, like kind of the best praise, for, you're bringing somebody in and kind of creating that accountability, that space for people to take ownership. What I look for in somebody coming in, whether it's this industry or any industry really, is just being a self-starter, right?
Yeah. Is there a particular skill set you look for?
It sounds simple, but just being involved, asking questions.
That's great. Yeah, and so let's talk about leadership in crisis. Like, let's talk about when the chips are down. Okay, so this isn't a question I've actually asked a lot of people during this new series I'm doing.
Sure.
So we're mostly talking about career development, like maybe a little bit we get into some process as they tell a story.
Sure.
But I've never asked somebody yet, tell me about a time it all went wrong and how you had to lead through that, like, or a good leader that you were under led through that. Like, what happens when, as I like to say, the feces has hit the oscillator and you are, the buck stops somewhere?
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of situations, and once again, I think I've been fortunate to have a good team around me that, when you talk about collaboration, everybody puts their heads together and we kind of figure this thing out as a group, from the operations team to our maintenance team, up and down the chain. But Valentine's Day, I think 2019, we had a really crazy rainstorm. From a hydraulic standpoint, we were completely overloaded. It was just this, I wouldn't call it a once in a lifetime rainstorm, but the biggest rain I could remember in a long time, and it was pouring down. And my current plant manager and supervisor at the time, I think they did a good job at delegating, right? Hey, we need you here, we need you here. And then from a management standpoint, what I saw that was the biggest thing was all the resources that came together, not just from our department, but from other departments too, to try to get us through this thing. Because there was a certain point where it's like, hey, this rain is coming. Mm-hmm. We're not stopping it. As far from a process standpoint, filters backed up, ponds starting to fill up. Like, what are we going to do with this stuff? Buildings that were just built at a certain point were starting, the water level was starting to rise, and there was potential that water was going to go into these buildings that would have going to create its own set of issues. But being a part of that, and from a crisis standpoint, we had even our HR team and our safety team that came down to make sure everything was good, everybody was safe. I think that to me was a good example of leadership and in crisis. So I haven't experienced, like I said, I haven't experienced something to that level, but it was a good thing for me to see.
Yeah,
good thing for me to see.
Well,
so.
And I can relate with that. And that sometimes acts of God. Just I told you this story last night, and I know what it feels like to be supported. I know what it feels like not to be supported.
Sure.
And this story I'll briefly tell was of me being supported. I was definitely supported, where a landslide filled 2 aeration basins with mud, and we had a third empty one, and it was a definite. It was bad. We brought in light towers because the power was out, and so that we were doing permit required confined space entries in an emergency. Little did we know, our effluent discharge line had been wiped out a mile down the road, and we were checkmated anyway. But it's really in these situations, I would imagine for you, you're now in a shift supervisor role. You have to look at. There's sometimes. People call the next person, and then you pick up the phone and you go, oh, I don't have anybody to call.
Yeah.
It's me.
It's you.
And so I'm sure as you go for your grade 5, you appreciate that feeling of responsibility.
Absolutely.
And that weight of responsibility.
Yeah, and it's to me, it's something that, it's grown on me over time. We talk about the ownership, right, and the accountability. It's something that, I take our job very seriously. You have those situations where, you're going to be that person, that point man, and you have to make the call. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do, because it's like I think I'm making the right call. Yeah. I don't know, but I'm taking everything that I have up to this point. I'm standing back. I'm looking at everything. I'm saying, okay, what makes sense right now? What's simple? Like, what's simple to explain? How can I delegate this or that or whatever it might be? Who do I have to call if this happens or that happens? And we have a good supporting cast that we feel like as a team we can get through anything. Honestly.
Sure. Well, tell me about career aspirations. You're going for your 5.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for this, or is it just is it personal development, or do you want to move up?
I think it started off as a personal development thing, just a goal that I had, and as I moved into this role and once again I see the plant manager and other people that I've met over time, and I do want to make my move into into a leadership role. I hope one day to be a plant manager. That's what my goal is right now.
And so, is there? I mean, this has been great talking to you about career, is there and leadership and how you broke in. I think a lot of people find this very insightful and very helpful. Is there anything we missed that you might want to talk about? Something you want to tell? If you could go back in time to Jamel, OIT, well, all the knowledge you know right now. Is there something, imagine that young person coming into the industry, what would you go back in the time machine and tell them?
It's gonna get better. Your things will eventually work out if you put in the time and the hard work and take it upon yourself to to study, whether it's outside of work, whatever free time you have. One of the things I didn't mention is when my daughter was first born, the only times I would really be able to study was when she took a nap, or when she was asleep. And so that's how important it was for me. Yep. So, but there were times where it's like, man, I don't want this to be for nothing. I didn't know what's going to happen, what opportunities I might have, and
when I talked about this with a different interview, there is no such thing as a risk-free proposition.
absolutely, you're right. That's right.
And when I was studying for my 3 and 4, and I still have very young children, but we're talking like in the crib young,
Yeah.
and pregnant wife, and it was intense.
Yeah,
and she wasn't pregnant when I did my 3, but she was pregnant when I did my 4, and that actually pushed my test date up because I needed that test off my plate before our second child came. And I remember sitting next to my now oldest kid while he was going to sleep, reading him books. And then he would eventually like kind of lay down, and I let him just be quiet. And I would be on Roy CEU taking practice tests, and I would fall asleep in the chair.
Yeah.
And it's almost a rite of passage. And it's like, I don't think we want to abuse ourselves, and that's not something we should celebrate. But God, there's something rewarding about that grind. And then in the end, you actually achieve the goal.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's times. Everybody sees this polished. Everybody sees this, what is turning in for me a successful YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
But what you didn't see was me not knowing what in the world was going on, and actually having that calculation in my head where I said, this is going to work or it's not going to work, but if it doesn't work, at least I tried.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's working, which is great, but I was totally comfortable with it not working. And I think you have to have a little bit, I'm getting a little woo-woo, but a little bit of not disassociation, but detachment from this. This needs to work.
Yeah.
Because I think you kind of come off a little desperate sometimes, maybe in an interview.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if you're just confident in your own skin, you're able to say, "Hey, I know I am what I'm capable of, and somebody will pick me up. This will work out for me." And you just, decide that's what you want to do, and through the process. And I don't mean to ever talk. This channel's about helping people get in the industry. I don't ever want to talk anybody out.
Sure.
But through the process, you may actually look in the mirror and go, "This is not what I want to do." And you can't know that until you start the journey of 1,000 steps. That first step.
There's going to be times, just like anything, right? Anything worth doing. There's you're going to go through the hardships, the trials and tribulations, right? It makes it all worthwhile when when you get to that place that you want to get to. Like you were saying, that grade 3 for me, I remember studying for that grade 3. I would be sitting there just looking at this stuff all the time and thinking to myself, okay, there's going to be an end to this at some point. Whether I pass or I don't pass, at least I can say I did this. And if I pass, great, then I'm going to keep moving on to the next thing. But if I don't, I have something to learn from it.
Yeah.
And so there was always something to gain from it. But you got to put the work in.
Yeah.
You have to put the work in. That's anything worthwhile. Like nothing is just given to you, but also know that sometimes opportunities will present themselves, and you almost have to have the wherewithal to know, hey, take advantage of these opportunities when they do come up.
Yeah, don't work too hard in trying to force something to happen.
Sure.
So two now analogies I've had that were great. Last night when I was interviewing Casey, he said he had a setback. He got let go from one of his wastewater jobs. And he said he stopped and he looked, and when that door shut, he didn't try to pull, I'm paraphrasing, he didn't try to force his way through the door. He looked at what other doors around him may have reopened. And it all worked out in the end, and he said it was actually worked out best case scenario.
Sure.
That opportunity ended. And another person I've talked to recently, he calls it the river of opportunity. So when you're floating downstream on a river, you're not paddling very hard. So I'm kind of trying to compliment what you said, that you, it's not something that you should be like, beating yourself up trying to get that 1.0 IT job at East Bay Mud or that 1.0 IT job at Contra Costa. Like I'm naming Bay Area utilities because I'm familiar with them, but maybe you see the door open at a small place, running a jetter truck, and you go work in collections for 6 months and get your foot in the door. Yeah.
Get involved, network, connect with people. You never know what opportunities can come up, and also too, what people are going to be pulling for you. There might be people that are, pulling for you behind the scenes, and sometimes that means so much. That gives you that last little bit that you need to kind of keep pressing forward. And like for me, I was fortunate to have a lot of those people. From a professional standpoint and a personal standpoint. My wife, my biggest supporter, and people that I came in with that gave me, like I said, an opportunity. My plant manager, supervisors that I've had at other treatment plants, some that I still definitely consider mentors, people that I still to this day call and will just ask questions about wastewater.
Yeah.
And just when I'm feeling, when I'm not confident about things that I may know or not know at the time, and those people kind of put me back in my place and make me feel good again. And there's always going to be those people too. So anyways.
So last thing I'm going to ask you, and then I'll give you like freestyle, whatever you might want to talk about. Where do you see the future of a wastewater treatment plant operator? It's a different world now, right?
Yeah.
So 20 years ago, it was Imhoff cones and set solids, tests. We still do those things.
Sure.
But it's like, that's all you did. That's a gross generalization. I'm sorry if you're a little older and you can hear me say that. But now with automation, everything's sleek and, happening like that. We're upgrading from float systems to transducers and SCADA controls are getting way more sophisticated. And in 20 years, our job might look significantly different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you, just cast your mind out, 10 years, for those people that are like, I want to be competitive in this new era of technology. Is there a path you might recommend for somebody to look into?
Oh, that's a great question.
Maybe I could serve up a couple options for you to choose from, or maybe you got something.
Yeah, I would say that was actually a conversation we had. I think what we know as the operator, right? And I've come across different treatment plants or operators or whatever you might have it. That, like you mentioned, are almost like hybrids now, and I do think though that is the future. I don't think our when it comes to our industry, that jobs are going to be lost to automation or AI or anything like that. I don't think that at all. I think it's actually going to create opportunities for a lot of people, whether that be controls, maintenance, operations, all in one, like you said. One hybrid position. As far as, how to prepare for something like that, I think there are a lot of, whether it be junior colleges or local schools or online resources that offer certifications or things for electrical theory, or, maybe they have a local class at somewhere like this, right? At Tri-State, where they have a class or something on maintenance, on how to pull apart a pump. YouTube channel, where you have those resources available to you. But I think in the future it is going to go something like that. Maybe even some SCADA as well.
Yeah. Controls.
Instrumentation. There was a plant that we toured a couple years ago for a membrane conference, and their operators were maintenance, control techs, electricians, SCADA. They did it all. It was really cool to see and how much they appreciated their job too. And I think that at some point, that's going to be the future. And also too, I don't think the AI or the automate, any of that, I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, I'm really into the data.
Yeah.
I've come to enjoy that a little bit more over the years. And so I think that the more tools we have to be able to know how our process is working, healthy or whatever might have you. I mean, it's a tool, right?
Yep.
But you still have to have, your senses about you, the visual part, what you smell, what you hear,
Sure.
What you see, kind of the common sense stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think over time it will be like a little bit combined trades all in one.
Yeah.
At some point, I think it's a good thing. It gives more opportunities, and I really hope more people take tours, and they, at least from a wastewater standpoint, they see what we do.
Yeah.
'Cause I have a lot of pride in what I do. I think it's really important. I'm fortunate to work for a great district that provides these opportunities for me, and for everybody, and from a service standpoint, you know, I think we do everything we can to provide a good service for the people that you know, for our ratepayers are the people that we represent, right? In our space down in, you know, Southern California. So
Yeah.
But yeah, that's taking a little bit of page out of your book. I do think that's where it's going to go.
Yeah.
That's just what I think.
Cool. Well, great. Well, it's been great having you. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything you want to, any advice? Anything come to mind?
Just for anybody that's looking into this field, specifically wastewater, the opportunities are going to come. Just keep trying. Don't give up. If it's something where you're just thinking about it, you don't know anything about it, you know, go on Google and type up the, you know, your local wastewater treatment plant or district, and, you know, request to take a tour. See if that's something that you know that you can do, just to see whether you're interested in this or not, because it's not what a lot of people think. You know, when they think of wastewater, for example, they think they know what wastewater is. And there is a very small portion where, yeah, there is some of that. But then there's the biology, there's the science part of this too, there's the mechanical side, there's the electrical side, there's the data. It's all these things encompassed in one, you know, wastewater treatment plant. And then you have the different technologies too. Like it's cool, you know, like there's a lot of cool stuff. So I would just say for people that are interested in this, you know, whether you're volunteering or trying to volunteer, don't give up. Utilize all avenues, reach out, utilize the YouTube and these resources that are available, because you know, it's good. It's only going to help you. So that's my final words.
Very good. Jamel.
Hey,
thank you so
man.
much. I
No,
appreciate you
that.
coming.
No, thank you.
Yeah.